Ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing guest today, the owner and chairman of Century 21. Absolute privilege. I got the honor to meet this man at my friend's opening ceremony at his Gregory Hills Century 21 franchise. And he had the absolute honor of having the owner and chairman himself, Mr. Charles Tarbey, attend and give a beautiful speech amongst many other great candidates there. So I would like to introduce Sir Charles Tarbey to the
Sir
conversation.
Charles.
I say, sir, yes. How you going? How you going?
I'm good, Joey. Thank you.
You're welcome. I say sir because I grew up in a Catholic school, and Brother Patrick, Parramatta Marist, he taught me to sir. Everybody sir who's older than you. So
I went to St Patrick's College in Goulburn,
oh wow.
Brothers School. I boarded there, and it was pretty strict in my day, that's for sure. Or sir was what it was all about.
Oh wow. I just want to take this moment to acknowledge and thank you for coming today. It's an absolute privilege.
Pleasure, Joey.
And however gratitude I can express, I wish to send that to you. I just can't express that enough. So, I mean, how is your health? How is your life? How is your health? I know you're a very busy man.
Yeah, look, it's great, thank you. I focus on three things. I was talking to my son about it the other day. For me, it's always the same sort of three things. It's what I plan to do tomorrow. So when I wake up, I'm already on my way. How I feed myself and how I exercise myself, and those things sort of keep me going through the day and give me plenty of energy to get through a lot of challenges. We all face challenges in life. Everybody has challenges. It's how we deal with them, and I think that's the key. So I try to find a way to have a clear, sound mind so I can deal with the many challenges that I'm confronted with on a daily basis.
Yeah, wow. Can you dive in a little bit? Are we allowed to dive into your head and
Sure,
say,
yeah.
well, how do you maintain such a grounded level, I would say? Would you say it's a grounded level of space?
I think so. I mean, brought up in a country town, and so you're grounded from day one. You're brought up with parents who had nothing, so you're grounded again.
Yeah.
And so you're taught to respect a lot more than most. I can always tell people from country towns when I meet them because they are different. Nobody's special in the country. Everybody is just doing what they do, and that's the good part about it. So that grounding is good for me. But what I said just a few moments ago, one of the most important things for me is knowing what I'm going to do when I wake up, not after I wake up. But at the moment I wake up, I know what it is I want to do today or that day. That gives me a lot of energy at the start. Whereas, and that's been something that I've got my diaries here in my study at home, which is where I'm talking to you from 1978.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know who it was that taught me that. I suspect it was the people that I'd worked for. I was 22 in 1978. And I had opened my first real estate office in 1977, October 77.
Wow.
And people that I'd worked for before that must have given me some indication of writing things down. So I've done religiously since then. And it's something that I try very hard to pass on to everybody around me. That I always say the most important thing you do before you go to bed at night, apart from sleeping, is making sure you plan what you're going to do the next day so that you wake up with purpose.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. Like right before you go to bed, someone once said a failure to plan is a plan to fail.
Yeah, I guess so. These are just things. I mean, I'm not disciplined about it in the sense that I write down I need to prioritize, and people have these different color schemes and different labels, diaries or the calendars. For me, it's really simple. I open it up, and the first few things that pop out of my head are generally things that have been on my mind and most important. And then I'll sit for a bit longer and slowly filter things out, and progressively it just gets down to basic things. And it's very easily written up. It's one line per action. So I don't scribble down 10, and use 10 lines for one thing. It's one line per action. And when I complete it, I cross it out. And every time I cross an action out or an objective out, it just seems to give me that little bit of energy to move on. It's a very strange thing, but it's been a very powerful thing for me for a long time, Joey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Charles. It's absolutely amazing. There's a correlation between people that are organized and people that are successful, and being brutally, honestly, simply And you're saying it in simple terms. It's very simple procedure you follow.
Yeah, look, goals were the big thing when I was a kid. People teach you about goals, and I started to get very concerned about goals because I found that sometimes goals are difficult for people, and they stop halfway because they think, gee, this is just getting all too hard. So it actually is negative for them rather than positive. I found that some people can perform better than the goals that they set, so it restricts them from doing great things. And so started thinking more about short-term objectives, long-term dreams. And what I mean by that is that I can sit down and mentally picture things that I want to be. I remember reading something a long, long time ago. I wish I could remember what book it was from, but it said something along the lines, picture the able, earnest person that you'd like to be, and the thought that you hold is hourly transforming you into that particular individual. And that's a long-term dream. I do remember seeing myself in my mind traveling around Australia wearing a suit, doing. Wow. I didn't know what it was going to be exactly, but and then I build a series of short-term objectives because one book that I would recommend people read.
Yes.
It's a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World.
The Greatest Salesman in the World.
It's not about sales, but The Greatest Salesman in the World by a gentleman called Og Mandino, O-G-M-A-N-O. And in that book, I picked it up, and it takes only a very short time to read it, but there's a trick to it. And inside of that book is 10 scrolls. And at the end of the book, it says, now go back and read the first scroll 3 times a day for 30 days. And when you've done that, and it was a conditioning process. And I remember reading something in that really resonated with me. And that was that I will build my castle one brick at a time, for I know that small attempts repeated will complete any undertaking. So for me, a successful business is creating short-term objectives in a quality environment, and that's backed by a long-term dream. And I think that if you move progressively through these short-term objectives and you work in an environment that is conducive to good attitudes and good behaviour, and you have that right mental frame of what you think you want to be, you start moving down the hallway of life. And as you move down the hallway of life, there's all these doors that you can't see from the top of the hallway. And as you get down the hallway, you start seeing these doors, you peek into opportunities that you would never have gotten had you not walk down the hallway of life.
That's a fantastic metaphor. I've never heard it like that before. Just walking down the hallway.
Yeah, it's something that came into my mind. It's not something I read. It's something that came into my mind. And I remind my children about it. And it's really interesting how they picked it up. My son recently said to me, he had this opportunity, and he looked at me and he said, yep, down the hallway of life, Dad. Because the company I own today, Century 21 Australasia, was my competition, Joey. And so it's really interesting. You can't sit where I was sitting, where I had a company called Combined Real Estate that I started back in the 70s, and that to 50-odd offices. And Century 21 came in from the US and started trying very hard to take some of my offices, because they were well structured, some of my franchisees, which I was successful at. And so who would have thought that very company that was my competition would be a company that I would own? And that's something that you only find out when you just keep moving down that hallway of life, and the opportunities that come to you from the strangest of angles that you could never have imagined. But you have to be in it for it to happen.
Yeah. So that is like the pinnacle of gold advice. Just not having, I guess, tunnel vision. A lot of people are consumed by tunnel vision these days. They're blinded by too many opportunities, too many things that call it the bright light syndrome. Fear of missing out, FOMO, the younger generation would say. But you're saying, like, have a direction, have a vision, and be completely and utterly open along the path. Be present along the path to the doors that may open.
Yeah, you've got to be open to it. I found that the difference between a lot of people that succeeded in my company, or people that I know that have succeeded, and those that have failed, is that the ones that succeeded were there when it happened. And it's really quite remarkable. My dogs are going crazy out there.
I can hear them. That's okay.
No. Just hold that thought for a second. Just hold me.
Sure.
So where was I? Yes. So,
Okay.
something really interesting I've noticed between people who succeed and people who could have succeeded but didn't is that the people who succeeded were there when it happened. A lot of people just seem to stop really early, and I've also found that success is not about somebody who's smarter than somebody else. Because I got to tell you, there's so many people out there that could run rings around me when it comes to levels of intellectuality or being an intellectual. Obviously, you can have emotional intelligence, which I prefer, rather than people who are intellectual. That's because I'm not intellectual. But I think that a lot of people think that if you're smart, you can be successful, and that's just not the case. It is just not the case. I know a lot of very smart people, very hardworking people, and the difference between those that are smart and hardworking and those who are hardworking and succeeded was that the people that succeeded had ambition. And I've often said to people that ambition sometimes puts the wrong people in the right place. And what I mean by that is that you see people who are in politics because they're ambitious, but they're not necessarily the right people to do the job. So sometimes ambition is dangerous. But if what you call success about being financial or having respect in business, yeah, that's success, but it's not being successful.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love your humility. Your humility speaks for itself, saying that you don't you say that you're not intelligent. There's obviously some sort of intelligence there in order to succeed, but having the other components further validates people's success rather than just intelligence.
Yeah, look, I agree. Look, if you are a person that has a number of university degrees and you don't put them into practice.
Well, that's the thing. Like the system. Let's talk about the system. I wasn't educated through the university. I started a construction management course, but I pulled out. I learned way more in life from my father, being on the tools as an electrician, learning from his errors and his failures, and learning directly from him and his 35 years in the trade. And I've learned from people like yourself, just having a 2-minute conversation, and I've learned so much from people rather than institutions. And not saying that institutions are not necessary, but the value in human experience, in my opinion, validates the authority to teach.
Well, I was your age in the past, Joey. I used to be your age, and of course that's where you learn. You learn from people. There's a saying again that doesn't apply to everybody, but there's two types of people in the world: those that can and do, and those that can't and teach. And I think that a lot of people can get out there and get it done, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're capable of teaching. But it really, for me, it really comes down to what people want, which is we talk about humility. Just because I do what I do, it doesn't mean to say that I'm super special and people should be putting me on a pedestal. I just love what I do. And there are people out there that are far more successful than I in terms of the way they live, not whether they've got an asset or two. It's the way they live. They're far more successful than I am, and I can learn from them. When I've got franchisees who have a work-life balance that is amazing, and I keep thinking to myself, why can't I do what they're doing?
So, do you want to mention them?
Probably not.
Okay, that's okay.
But they do. They have this great lifestyle the way they do things, and I keep thinking, gee, maybe I've got it wrong. Just because I own Century 21, that doesn't mean I've got it right. And it's easy for me to stay on the ground. Trust me, it's easy for me to put my feet on the ground. I'm not a big fish in a small pond. I'm a small fish in a big pond. There's a lot of people around me in business that have done incredibly well, remarkably well, and I still look to them and look up to them for what they've achieved as well. And that keeps me well grounded.
And that's amazing. Your groundedness is, I believe, why one of my mates, Henry and Dominic Bonfilio, chose to go from their previous franchise to your franchise because of how open you are, how present you are, how grounded you are in the moment. Like you talk to anybody without it. Obviously you have agendas to meet, but you'll give that person your full attention, be present in that moment. That's something I really admire about you. So can you tell people how you got there? How did you become the person you are today in respect to being present in the moment?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you think I'm present in the moment, Joey. I still think I have a lot to learn in that area too. The most important thing for me to do is it goes all the way back to my parents, and that's a really interesting thing. A lot of people talk about how negative their family life, how negative their upbringing was, and how challenged they were, and they fought through it and come to the other side. My story is nothing like that. My parents cared about their children. They gave us opportunity, and as much as they could, given what they had, they'd always put us first. And so it was those people and the way they treated us that demonstrated to me how other people should be treated. My father said to me one thing that I should never forget. And my surname, Tarbey, is not a common surname. So if you hear the name Tarbey, I can't hide behind the name Smith. If my name was Smith and somebody on Smith gets on television gets arrested for doing all sorts of things, there could be 1,000 Charles Smiths out there. So nobody's going to point the finger at me. But Charles Tarbey, that's the only one of its kind in the country. Dad said to me, "Never forget your children carry your surname." And I thought about that a real lot. And wherever I go, I make sure that I'm respectful to people because I know that one day my children might go to those very same places. And I want my children to be respected for two reasons. For the path that I've paved for them, and also because of the people they are. And so that was a really, really important lesson for me. Never forget your children carry your surname. And so everything I do is reflected on my children. And I've seen that with other people. I've had people who've come to see me whose parents I know and whose parents haven't been great in business, haven't been great to other people, and haven't done the right thing. And I found it incredibly difficult to judge that person on their own merits because of who their parents were.
Mm.
And I don't think that's very nice of me to say that, but I'm being very honest with you, that it's incredibly hard to be nice to somebody whose parents were nasty to you. It is very hard. So I figure that your parents, when my dad said, "Don't forget your children carry your surname," everything I do, every deal I do, every time I have a conversation or every decision I make that impacts on other people, I keep in mind the fact that if I do this badly, it's going to reflect badly on my children when I'm not here to defend them.
That's fantastic. And that's separating yourself from your own life and contributing to something greater than yourself, which is it's a human need, believe it or not. And some people don't get the opportunity to feel that. You know, one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people haven't, unfortunately. And one of the things he taught me specifically was, the basic human needs, certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, significance, and then there's growth and contribution. You seem to be contributing and diving into a sense of growth with your company, with yourself, but contribution speaks a lot. That's what I'm hearing.
Interesting because you're making me think about a lot of sayings, and I know that these sayings, when they're burnt indelibly into your subconscious mind, as they say, come out in strange ways. And something else that I live by that I learned a long time ago, and I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, I think it was, that which you share will multiply, that you withhold will diminish.
Mm.
I found that to be very, very interesting because a lot of people said to me, why do you train other real estate agents when they're in competition to you? I said, well, it's interesting because they often remember where they learnt that from, and they talk about it, and they talk about you in a positive way. and then that impacts on your family in a positive way. You know, where my kids say, "Hey, Dad, I met somebody the other day that said they knew you, and they were very complimentary about you." And it's nice. That which you share will multiply. That which you withhold will diminish.
That's perfect. Beautiful saying from Ralph Waldo Emerson.
I'm pretty sure it's Ralph
Yeah,
Waldo. Double
yeah,
check that.
yeah. I'll double check that as well. And something comes to mind: sharing is caring. It's a simple one I grew up with. Just, I think we heard it in the playground a lot as kids. Sharing is caring. We were just laughing about
Of
it.
course. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
You know,
of course.
it's amazing, and its contribution is something that a lot of people fail to see that will enlighten. And could you suggest that your mentality towards contribution has impacted the growth of you as a person, but not only you as a person, your company? Would
Yeah,
that be? Yeah.
I have absolutely no doubt about it. And that's a very big part of what I do. I've written a couple of real estate books, and I give them away. You know, and because if people write to me and say, "I heard you," yep, I'll send you a copy of my book, no problem. How much? No, that's okay. I mean, really, I'm not going to make my money out of those things. People will say, "Hey, can you do a talk for us about this, or can you do?" And other companies, other organisations. I've spoken for other real estate chains, and it does seem strange. But the reality is that if you share your thoughts and your knowledge, when other people come up and chat to you, they've always got something to share with you. So you learn from that. And I really do think that plays a major part in my business. For my franchise owners, I'm available for them 24/7. And often they'll ring me on weekends, and I'll get back to them. And I'll do what I can to help them. That's just the way it is. And I can't end my day knowing that I haven't followed through with something that I promised I would do. And so sharing and having commitment to that has been a very, very important part of my business. I don't have any partners or shareholders in Century 21 Australasia. There's another brand that I've just started also, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, in conjunction with the TV show and magazine. That's just been launched, and they are a lifestyle real estate company around the Better Homes and Gardens brand. So that's just out there as well. So there's a number of things I'm involved in, and I would definitely suggest that if I didn't get a chance to share the concepts and ideas around those, that those businesses wouldn't grow and flourish.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's like you've planted a farm full of crops, and you've just said, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to show you how to do it." And you can also eat these crops as well if you like, because there's an abundance of it. There's an abundance of it.
That's if they don't get flooded or burnt.
Yeah.
This is interesting, Joey. I don't mean to boast. I don't mean to boast, but I own an 18-hole championship golf course down in a place called Kangaroo Valley, and
It's near me. That's not far from me.
Okay, I have a beautiful restaurant up in Lura in the Blue Mountains where I own the building and the restaurant. And people go, "Wow, gee, you must really enjoy it and have a great lifestyle and whatever." Well, let me just tell you, between bushfires in the Blue Mountains, bushfires at Kangaroo Valley that literally went within 10 metres of the golf course,
wow.
COVID-19, where accommodation, which is what the golf course is, and restaurant, which the golf course has, and the restaurant in the Blue Mountains for the last 5 months, those businesses have been literally closed. And so sometimes having those things it's not always a wonderful thing, but there's always something you can learn from the experience of owning these things. So planting and watering your crop or fertilising your crop is a great thing, but sometimes things just come from out of nowhere and they take it completely away from you. And it's how you cope with it at that point in time, which is I find is where the real challenge is. And if you can get through it, you find yourself having grown to another level.
Absolutely. And in that notion, what have you found that has helped you through COVID? Have you discovered anything about yourself, about people around you, about anything in life in general, in particular?
Yeah, I've certainly discovered there's a lot of people at work across my business, and there's a few of them that shouldn't be working in my. I've up at the restaurant, for example, I decided not to apply for JobKeeper because there's a couple of full-time people and a significant number of casual people in restaurants. And one of the casual staff who was only not even out of teens wanted the JobKeeper, even though the earnings prior to JobKeeper would have been $150 on a weekend as a dishwasher. Wanted the $1,500 a fortnight. And I started looking around at all of these people and thought, this is just wrong. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pay people money that they haven't earned. And so I decided not to apply to JobKeeper, and the full-time staff I kept on, and I asked them to take a reduction in pay because we wouldn't be open. And not only did they agree to that, and would have to come to the restaurant and work for just 2 days a week and just do some basic stuff. And they went to the restaurant every day, sometimes with their partners, and they completely renovated the restaurant over the last 3 months during COVID and in their own time. Whereas in another part of my business, where people still not on JobKeeper, I couldn't apply for JobKeeper for a lot of my business, but I reduced their work days to 3 days a week. They worked 3 days a week. Some of them said, hang on a second, I've still got a job to do. I'll work 4 or 5 if I have to. And so I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about give and take in people. And although the people who didn't give as much will still be there, the opportunities for them won't be as large because they didn't work that extra time to learn more and to recognise that there were opportunities.
Fantastic. I'm grateful that you've learned something in that period of time. I'm sure that most people have, but a lot of people aren't aware, Charles. A lot of people aren't aware of themselves. They seem to be on this mouse on a wheel type mentality that they just sort of go from A to B to C and then back to A, back to B, back to C. Like you enjoy growth. You have a growth mindset and an open mind and an awareness about you, which is a huge relation to success. Huge.
Only Dad, please promise that at Christmas time I have a tendency to buy into new businesses or start something new. And they made me promise that I wouldn't do something last Christmas. They said, please don't add to what you do. Can you just not promise that you wouldn't do that? So I promised them, and I left it till January before I did something. So,
you honoured the word. You honoured the word.
Money. It's not about money. I mean, please don't take that the wrong way. I enjoy being in the position I'm in. I live in a comfortable home and my children are educated and they have a nice, comfortable lifestyle. They're not over the top. But what drives me is what I do. If it was about money, I would have sold my company already because I've had plenty of opportunities to sell it in the past for good cash and go away and do nothing. It's not about money. Money's important. But it's not as important as what you do. Money is necessary, but if you achieve a certain standard of professionalism in what you do, money will find you anyway. And that's a hard road to follow. When you're in your 20s and you've got these real estate offices going and you're not making money and you've got pressure from banks and creditors, you think that money is the only thing. I've got to make money, got to make money. But somewhere in that period of time, I discovered that if I do a better job, money will find me. And I focused on that. It's a longer road. I would go to some of the people that work for me, some of the staff that work for me, lived in better homes, had better furniture, drove nicer cars, took holidays every year. But I had to stay the course, and it was very, very hard to stay the course. That money is not important, it's necessary, but if I achieve a certain standard, money will follow me. That's the really big picture, because people who make a lot of money have to splash it around and spend it in front of you to demonstrate that they have it. Okay, because if that's all they've ever made, I focused on building my reputation in the industry, and in 2022 it will be 50 years that I'll have been in real estate. And I still own real estate offices, still have property management, I'm still involved. And so I can stand before anybody if they wanted to ask me to do that and talk about any aspect of my business, because it wasn't about money. It was about building a standard.
Wow. Thank you, man. That sometimes I feel it difficult when I'm speaking to someone of your caliber of wisdom and experience in life. I find it difficult to respond with something because I'm just trying to listen, and I'm trying to comprehend it all. And I hope people are taking that on when they listen back to this. You know, comprehending what you're saying, listening to what you're saying, because there's a lot of greatness coming out of it. 50 years in the industry. That's twice as long as most people have lived.
I know, man. I know. And I've just hitting my straps.
You're just what? You're just what?
I'm just hitting my straps. I can't understand what's going on.
Wow.
You know, I've still got this burst of energy. I still want to do more. I'd struggle if I slow down. I don't know quite what it is. Maybe it's what I said to you before, waking up every morning with a purpose, watching what I eat, doing a little bit of exercise, gives me a clear mind. And today I'm 65 years of age, and I still can't stop. I still want to keep training. I still want to keep doing things. You know?
Keep going, man. Keep going. Keep going until you can't.
Yeah,
you know.
I will, mate. I think the only way they're going to get rid of me is either the proverbial bus hits me or somebody shoots me.
Knock on wood.
You know?
Knock on wood. We pray for a long-lasting life, Charles. You're an amazing contribution to many people. Your significance. You are very significant in the community, and I say this solemnly because what is there any opportunities that you've taken recently to, maybe develop partnerships with, like you said, you were talking in a seminar type way to other franchises, other different companies. Like, are you establishing relationships continually with other companies? What's your main focus these days?
Look, I think the main focus is back into business. Each business has a different focus. I'm always available. I'm always available to my family. Family first. That's the important thing. My son and my daughter know that they can reach out to me, and then their mother can reach out to me at any point in time. And my partner can reach out. Their mother is my ex-wife, and she's my best friend. That's a long story. And she's friends with my current partner. I've been single for a long time, and then I've met somebody, and so it makes, what's that show? Where there's these different families all in the one.
Family Feud, or Modern Family.
Yeah, Modern Family. My family makes Modern Family look like a pretty ordinary show.
Maybe we should call it. Maybe that's a show idea. The Tarbey.
Yeah, maybe. My focus is different in each place. You know, like with C21, my focus is really, really clear. It's taken me a long time to get clarity in it, but today it's really clear. And I know there are just two things I need to do for my franchise owners, and that is to do whatever I can to create amongst the community a reason for them to want to do business with a Century 21 office. So my focus is to make sure that the C21 agents are constantly flooded with people who want to buy, sell, or have their property managed. That's my focus. The other focus I have is to create an environment where other salespeople want to work for Century 21. And what that does, both of those things give the Century 21 offices the opportunity to grow. That's pretty much it.
Geez, so, I'm not a real estate agent. But I feel like becoming a real estate agent just because of how you are.
Yeah, you'd love it. It's just an incredible. I don't know any other industry where you sell something to somebody. You take an average home for an average price to an average couple. They keep it for an average period of time, and they make money on it. All other industries, you sell somebody a fridge, and as soon as they take it, it's half the price. And for me, I'm not selling real estate. It's creating an opportunity for people to create wealth. And that's how I've always seen it. And that's what I like so much about it. As much as people bag real estate agents, I've got to tell you, we're the most popular people at parties. Everybody wants to know what's going on in the market. People want to know where they should buy. And yeah, as much as they hate us, they never leave us alone at all.
That's so true. That's so true. It's so funny you mentioned that. God bless you.
I love it when they say, hey, when's the market going to boom? And I'm thinking about it. If we all knew that, we'd have started buying a few months ago. So it's just interesting how people are really fascinated by real estate, particularly in this country.
Yeah, man. You've seen so much over your time. There's so much here. You know, I could talk for hours with you. I mean, where I want to head now is into the future, artificial intelligence. Have you done a lot of study or anything on that and seen how that's going to apply to the Century 21 brand or to the real estate market in general?
Look, it's been applying to the C21 brand for a long time. In Australia, Century 21 is a global company. It's in about 80 countries around the world. I bought this region off the American parent back in 1995. But prior to that, in my previous company, I was very keen on software. And back in the mid 80s, I co-wrote a software platform with a young developer. It was PC based, obviously, then written on old software called COBOL, which is still floating around nowadays. And that platform developed into the platform that today drives the franchises under my organisation. And it became web-based back in 2002. So I launched a web-based product almost 20 years ago into the franchise network. And we focused on push technology and pull technology. A lot of people hadn't worked that out that time, but every time our franchisees would log in, it would push to their screen some of the activities, the actions, people who had been in the system, who'd been active in the system. And to this day, we have a platform called the Ops Score, or short for Opportunity Score. And what it does is that as people come into our open for inspections, it starts scoring them. If they ask for a contract, ask for a brochure, if they open up the link once, twice, 3 times, if we send them a broadcast, they open it up, it scores them. And every day that score builds. And when it gets to a certain point, it pushes them to the desktop. And so now the agent is now able to come into the office and talk to people who want to be spoken to. And,
Wow.
and to me, that level of basic algorithms has allowed our business to have a different approach to it. Now, there are obviously lead generation platforms that work with clients without the agent being involved, notifying, sending messages, etc. From that level. And that sort of artificial intelligence is very much a part of our industry. I don't think for one moment, and never did think, that the internet would destroy real estate like it may have done to travel industry or industries like that, because our industry, people still need somebody to help them make decisions. And presenting a property or building a relationship with somebody and demonstrating a property and working through that process of getting the buyer and seller to agree on a price that they're both happy with, it is not something that's easily done without the use of an individual. And so artificial intelligence plays a part in our industry, as has the internet. However, I was asked recently whether agents needed a window display. The person said to me a survey was done, and 87% of real estate agents believe that they didn't need a window display. And the person asked me, and they were interviewing me, and I said, will you publish what I say? And they said, yes. I said, well, tell the 87% of people who don't believe they need shop fronts to go upstairs and work upstairs away from the community so that I can get my franchisees to stay down in the street and work with their community. And I got belted up a bit about that. But the truth is that if it's all about just the internet and not needing a shop or a shop front, then take your for sale signs down. Don't advertise in the newspapers. Don't drop out flyers. Don't pick up the phone and call people. Don't go back to your past relationships or you sold property to and reignite it. Because if it's all about just the internet and working from upstairs, then go do it. And I don't agree with that. I think there's a significant amount of human contact attention that's needed in my industry that makes it what it is. We've been through all sorts of things, even through COVID, and we were able to do what we're doing right now, face to face with our buyers, with our sellers, still talking to them, still demonstrating property, still taking people through property, one-on-one, instead of the open for inspections that people were doing all of the time, where 20 people come through and they don't talk to anybody. Yeah, the one-on-one allowed me to take a buyer through a property and talk to the person, find out what they want, find out what their needs are, get them to give me feedback. So I think that we've sort of come back out of COVID learning more about the fact that we can get more done by dealing with fewer people and we can get to see people face to face without having to be physically in their presence and still keep up the lines of communication. So a lot has happened.
It's outstanding. Human interaction, relationships, so crucial. Relationship building, the foundation of any successful future.
The mantra in my company, you can ask most people in Century 21, they figure it out. If I build a relationship, the conditions become negotiable.
Wow, that's fantastic. If I build a relationship, the conditions become negotiable.
Yeah.
So you obviously are an amazing relationship builder because you have a thriving company. The boys that I know specifically love working under your banner and for your banner. And they're doing a tremendous job in that. You know, they've never been happier. They have never been happier. So what are the top tips for relationship building that you've given people over the time of your 50 years in the industry? I just want to accentuate that. Half a century.
Look, I think there's some really interesting points that I do a talk once a year for Rotary. I'm not a Rotary member. Can you do that talk about, you know, how you present yourself to people, etc.?
Sorry, Charles. It went. It halted on you. I remember.
So I do a talk every year for Rotary leadership. I'm not a Rotary member. My father was, but for the last 25 years, I've travelled around country New South Wales, and I do this talk. And every time I get the same call every year, oh, Charles, we'd like you to come and deliver that same presentation. I said, really, can I do something else? Again, we want you to do this, your presentation on getting the message across, right? And I think that when I deliver that presentation, it's the same sort of thing, you know, look up to people. And for me, that's really easy. For a person who's tall, often they look down at people physically. And I know a lot of tall people have learned how to bend forward and talk to somebody, so they engage them. It's important that you look up to people, and I think that's a critical part of opening up conversation when you're having.
You're making me want to lower my chair because I've noticed my eyes are looking down at the screen.
Well, there's not too many people that look up to me, mate. I'm only 5'4". So,
hey, but you are 8 foot tall in spirit.
Don't worry about.
But you are 8 foot tall in spirit, and I felt that the first time I was in your presence.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
I think that when I deliver that talk, that same talk, it always reminds me of the fact that there are just some basic things, and because I am my height, and again, I know I'm not being silly when I say that, but I know that because I am my height, I am automatically looking up to people, and so straight away, it really is very, very easy for me. The other thing I always say to people, it's about verbal and non-verbal. Verbal and non-verbal. You can say so much, and if you look at those books that on body language by the world famous Alan and Barbara Peace, you know when you're in a conversation with three people, and you can tell which person's got the most attention in that conversation just by their non-verbal, just by their body language. And that's an important thing too. If you're talking to somebody, talk to them, look at the person when you're talking to them, and face the person when you're talking to them is a big part of it. Another part is that if I don't care about them, they're not going to care about me. That's really simple. And so if I'm interested in what they're doing, they can become interested in what I'm doing. And the other thing is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
My wife says that all the time.
Yeah, it's not what you say it. And this is a really odd one. And I say to people that you have to look like you know what you're talking about, right? Now, you may not know what you're talking about, but if you look like you know what you're talking about, at least you get a chance to show people that you probably don't know what the hell you're talking about. You got the chance, right? At least you got the chance. And I always tell people, if I pull up outside of somebody's home and I'm late, straight away, I can see them peering through the blinds, and I go and knock on their door and they won't open the door. Or if I pull up in a car that is not consistent with the image, and this is really important, right? Consistency, if it's not consistent with the image that they expect of me, they won't even open the door even though they've made an appointment. That's the thing.
Wow.
As well.
Wow.
So
I think that's the reptilian brain. It's appealing to the reptilian brain in people.
It's really just an important part of it. And the other thing is that I learned this a long time ago from real estate trainers. If I say it, they tend to doubt it. But if they say it, it's true. So if I'm showing somebody a property and I say, hey, it's a big block of land, I say it, they tend to doubt it. But if they say, this is quite a large block of land, Charles, to them it's true. So part of building relationship is making sure that you care about them, make sure your verbal and non-verbal is intact, how you say things, talk up to people, not down at people, look like you know what you're talking about. If I say it, they tend to doubt it. If they say it, it's true. And then finally understanding that listening is more than just hearing people. Okay, that's the final part. So I get the opportunity to talk to young Rotarians around the country about that very thing, and I find it really interesting to be able to be asked to talk to them about that. So it's quite a thrill for me.
Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to take on the vibes. Like, I'm a spiritual person, very spiritual. I grew up a Catholic boy. And
yeah, we talked about that at the start. We're both Catholic boys. Good.
Yeah.
It's an oxymoron, I think. Good Catholic boy, but anyway.
I think that the spirit has a lot to do with, embodying successful people like yourself. Do you have any rituals or any, I don't know, any sort of personal, and again, don't feel, if it's completely personal, which is my personal relationship with God is personal. It's not, I don't wish to diss the church or anything like that, but do you have anything in the spiritual realm that you're proud of?
For me, I'm brought up as a Christian, but that's not what it's about for me. For me, it's really, really clear. My job, my role is to take care of my family and guide my family and do what I can to guide the people that are part of my life. And that's the best I can do. I can't do much more than that. And I think I try to influence people through talks and books and what we're doing tonight or today or this morning, whoever's looking at it or whenever they're looking at it. But see, the phone never stops, does it?
Awesome.
It's the restaurant calling, saying I'm late for dinner. No, anyway, so I try to do what I can. Again, going back to what my father said, and that is that my children carry my surname. It's really important. I've learned a couple of great lessons through my children now. Through my children, I've learned 2 amazing lessons, which I'd like to share with you.
Please.
And you can switch me off, all right?
Okay.
And those 2 lessons, remember I mentioned to you a book by Og Mandino earlier on?
Yeah.
In his book, he gets you to repeat things so they become trigger, and they show up. They show up when they're needed, right? They show up when they're needed, if they're part of you. And one day I was leaving home at 6 a.m. I was getting up early. My daughter would have been about 3 or 4 years of age, and I'm sneaking out of the house early to get to the office. Dark winter days up here in the Blue Mountains, and I come out in the hallway, and there's my little girl with her little blanket over her shoulder, and she's going to the bathroom, and I've gone, sweetheart, come here, darling, and she's gone, no, and she's just walked in and shut the bathroom door. She's just jumped out of bed. She's probably still half asleep. I just go, I just go to work. What they say, I work hard, not for me, but for my family. And so I get out to the garage, and all of a sudden, bang, it hits me out of that book. I'll keep a smile on my face and in my heart, even though it hurts today. The world is a looking glass, gives back to me a reflection of my own soul. Now I understand the secret of correcting the attitude of others, and that is to first correct my own. So I turn around, I come back into the house. Sarah's coming out of the bathroom. I got down on my knee, I went, sweetheart, and she walked over to me and gave me a hug. I said, I love you, darling. She said, I love you, Daddy. And I went. Now, if I'd have gotten in my car and driven off without that having hit me, my day would have been incredibly different. It could have even been destructive. But just from that one flash of understanding the secret of correcting the attitude of others was to first correct my own, I was able to change that day. And that was my daughter. My daughter is very, very insightful as she's grown up, and she's understood so many things. And she's heard me say so many times that character is the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the mood in which it was made has left you. And one day she said, Dad, what do you mean by that? I said, what do you think I mean, Sarah? She said, if you say it, you do it. I said, yes, darling. That's what it is, right? And the other story I want to tell you is about my son, Joseph. We're down in Penrith getting a chair for his study desk. He would have been 18 or 19. And because it was his car, we were loading it in. And Penrith was where I started my first office in 1977. And so we're putting the chair in his car, and it was a warm day in Penrith, and I could feel it and I could smell it. And, because I've door knocked every house in that area year after year. And it's just so much a part of my career. And I'd said to Joseph, I said, you know what, son, sometimes in life, it's really important when you don't reach your goals. And he just shook his head and he looked at me, he said, Dad, you talked to me about objectives. And I said, yes, objectives and dreams. He goes, that's right. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was going through one of my old diaries and I found a page where I'd drawn this real estate office, which is still there in High Street, Penrith, 3 shop fronts. And I wanted to buy this building. I wanted to make one commercial, one residential, and the other rentals. And I had it all mapped out and was all good to go in my head that I was going to build the biggest real estate agency in Penrith. He said, yeah. He said, well, what's the point? I said, if I'd have achieved that, I might not be doing what I'm doing today. And I think that's how we started this conversation off, by talking about goals that could actually be so restrictive that you're not doing and reaching your full potential, because a goal has actually limited you.
Absolutely.
I say to people, short-term objectives, long-term dreams.
Short-term objectives, long-term dreams. That is, I'm speechless. The only thing that comes to mind is the same correlation of the universal sayings in that, is that the universe only has 2 answers. It's not now, or I have something better for you. And that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Anyway, you made me talk about things I haven't spoken about for years, Joey. So you're fantastic. You're absolutely welcome. It's an absolute privilege. It's an honor to interview you. Just conscious of time. I'm not sure. I think you have to go. But is there any last sort of vouchers of wisdom you'd like to share with the community, or anything you'd like to leave the community with in this specific period of uncertainty? No, I just think, quite simply put, we all have challenges in life. Everybody has challenges. The world is one big chunk of challenges. You either take the challenges there that are in front of you, you pick the challenges you want, but if you don't, you get left with the really shitty ones. That's all I'm going to say. Everybody has challenges. So take the ones that are in front of you that you can work with, because if you don't take any challenges, you end up with all horrible challenges, because the world is full of good, bad, and ugly challenges. And so take the ones that are there, or take the ones that are left over, or be forced to have the ones that are left over.
Wow, man. Thank you so much. That is absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to watch this over and over again to pick out the gold and try and quote some things that you've said, because I'm sure there's some philosophical quotes that can be nutted into the history books. Guys out there, please check out Century 21.
Send it back to me, Joey, because I'd probably need to remind myself of what I just said.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay. I will, absolutely. Your restaurant in Lura, for those that don't know what it's called?
Yeah. I've just, because we've refurbished it, it's called the Oak Restaurant.
The Oak. Yep.
It's a beautiful restaurant in a 2-story building in the main street of Lura that I bought years ago. And don't forget Kangaroo Valley Country Club, 18-hole championship course with accommodation. There you go.
There you go, guys. And if you have any wonder,
buying, selling, or renting, you know where to go.
and if you have any questions regarding real estate, see a local franchise, Century 21. I'm sure it'll lead up to this gentleman right here. His wisdom is amazing. His presence, his humbleness, his gratitude for life, his zest, his experience, 50 years in the trade. I just want to thank you again. And I'll touch base.
I'm only disappointed about one thing, Joey. and I'm going to leave you with this.
Sure.
When I said to you I was in the industry for 50 years, you should have said, my God, Charles, you've aged so well. I'm going to head off. Okay. You take care of yourself.
Okay. God bless you, mate. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Happy. Bye.
May time be your best friend.
Thank you, man. Bye.